Hello, and welcome back to Laying It Out. I'm your host, Scotty Dempsey.
And I'm Chelsea Pockets.
And this week's episode, we sit down with our friends from Gravity, Lehigh's women's ultimate team, and we discuss captaining and all sorts of fun team structural changes that come along with it. But before we get into that interview, we are going to talk about our usual, what's new with us that's happened in the past 2 weeks. So, Pockets, would you like to kick it off?
Well, nothing majorly new has happened to me, but the unnamed Philly women's team for club sent out their interest form again. I was really excited last year, back all the way in like February, March 2020 when they first released it, because I was like, oh, I just moved to the area. There's going to be this brand new women's team forming. They didn't even have a name for it. They just kind of announced it. They listed some people, some like core members on the interest form. A few of them I recognized from playing in college. They were like a few years older than me. I thought they were really good, really cool. Just remembered them, and I was like super excited for it. But then obviously COVID hit, and now they brought it back again, and I put my name on the list, and I'm excited to see if it goes anywhere this year.
That is exciting. It has been fun seeing all the club teams announce return to practice plans at the very least. If we haven't talked about Peep Show enough, it's been a lot of fun seeing them sound out their interest form as well, and me being sad that I can't sign up because I won't be there.
Be like me in 2019 and just drive 3 hours to go hang out with some Peep Show players and practice.
The catch there is that I won't have a car, but... Okay. But the thought's there at least.
Yeah, take a taxi from New York City. Become a taxi driver. Quit your new job that you haven't even started yet. Your fancy schmancy little big city girl job. And just become a taxi driver. And only accept jobs that take you to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Perfect. And then I'll stay overnight somewhere. I'll figure it out as I go.
Stay in the car. I have a different life update. If people want to hear about this, if you don't know who I am, I'm weird. And I fantasize about living in a van. And before we get into all this, like, I understand that it's, like, mildly problematic to want to live in a van. But I got a taste of it recently because I have a cat, but my apartment complex does not know I have a cat, and it would be against my lease if they found out I have a cat. And they were real jerks to me. I was at home at my parents' house in April. I'm really bad at telling stories. This is going all over the place. But I was at my parents' house in April because I just needed a break, as you do. It's nice to see your family. And I brought my cat with me because I'm not going to be away from my cat for a month. And my apartment complex sent out a notice. They're like, we're going to be doing preventative maintenance on this weekend. And I'm like, oh, perfect. My cat will be in Connecticut, hiding away. I did have to go back for a weekend and kind of like put away all the cat stuff that I had left behind, like the second litter box and one of her little hidey huts and whatever, and then like clean up just a little bit. And then I drove back to Connecticut. That was like a week before I was about to go back and like a few days before they were supposed to do the maintenance. Then I got a message like a few days later that was like, oh, we're pushing it back to the next weekend when I was supposed to be in Pennsylvania. So I was like, I was talking to my parents. I was like, oh, what if I stayed a little bit later for no reason whatsoever? Because in also classic me fashion, I'm lying to my parents about illegally having a cat.
Don't do this at home, kids.
Yeah. I was like, oh, what if I stayed for all day Mother's Day? Because that's when this was happening. Originally, I was going to drive home after, like, lunch Mother's Day. But my parents were like, no, we're nervous. We're worried about you driving at night. Because they're crazy. Also, going off in a completely different direction.
You guys are going to need a roadmap for this.
To put in perspective how crazy my mother is, yesterday, she had texted me around 4 about something, and I didn't want to respond to it because I was like on my period and cranky and tired, so I didn't respond to it. And then also because I was cranky and tired, I went to bed at 9 p.m. She had apparently called me at like 10 p.m. and then called me like 5 different times. She texted my boyfriend, is like, is Kelly alive? Blah, blah, blah. She sent me emails. I don't really know. I did get an email. And she did the classic like old person thing where there's nothing in the body and all of the messages in the subject of the email.
Oh no.
So to put in perspective how nervous my parents are, like I didn't respond to them for 12 hours and they thought I was dead. So back to the cat story. So they were like, no, we want you to go home before it's dark out. So I had to drive back the day before my apartment was going to do preventative maintenance, whatever. So I had called my apartment complex. I was like, you need to come between this hour and this hour because I have very important work calls that I have to take in my apartment. Blah, 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 blah. They're like, okay, we can come in the morning shift. So for the morning, I got my work laptop, my work computer. I put my cat Wawa in her crate again. I like scurried out of the building with a blanket covering her. I put her in the trunk of my car and I drove down to the park that's down the street from me. And then I opened the trunk. I'm just sitting in the trunk with my cat next to me. I have my work laptop open, connected to the hotspot on my phone. I'm just doing work, sitting in a park with my cat.
And it was the dream.
Yeah, that was the reason we got to this story, which I almost forgot about, is because I was talking about van life and wanting to live in a van. I just slapped my thigh. How did we get to van life? Where were we?
I don't even remember. You telling me that I should live in
your car
to play Peep Show.
Okay.
Well, all that aside, we're a little bit discombobulated here on the Laying It Out podcast this week for sure.
No.
Now that I've had my second shot and I'm actually 2 weeks out from it, I've got all sorts of stuff going on that I'm trying to sort out. For example, I had a little reunion with my college friends. Woo! And it was like COVID safe. Unfortunately, like discussing that type of thing is a little bit touchy, but everyone's vaccinated.
Yeah, the CDC says that if you are fully vaccinated, which is 2 weeks after your second shot, then you are allowed to hang out inside with other vaccinated people.
Yes. And everyone got tested before anyway.
Yeah.
And I will actually be seeing them all this coming weekend. So now when you guys hear it, it'll be my reunion weekend will have been 2 weeks away. And this coming weekend, I'm actually walking at my graduation a year later. So I'm going back to Lehigh, going back to the old stomping grounds for like a whirlwind, like 36 hours probably. And then I am moving to New York City because I've got approved for a lease today. Woo! And I have to figure out what I'm going to bring. So there ain't no rest for the wicked over here. But definitely I'm feeling Pockets discombobulation-ness.
Well, I have no reason to be discombobulated. I'm just weird. I did have a little bit of kombucha before this call.
Dangerous. That's dangerous.
Yeah, Scotty introduced me to kombucha, and it puts both of us in a bit of a silly mood. But to get on an actual Frisbee topic, I think something we wanted to touch on this week was talking about mixed versus women's clubs, specifically just kind of our opinions on it. Because I mentioned earlier, like the Philly women's team is going to be at least attempting to do something this year. And that would be exciting for me. I wouldn't have to drive too far to get to them. I kind of miss women's ultimate. I'm not in college anymore, so I won't really get to play unless I'm playing for a club team. But then also, like, I like mixed too. I like my peep show team. And something actually that my boyfriend, or no, you, this is bad. I have the same conversation twice every day. I have it with Scotty and I have it with my boyfriend. One of them.
Consistency is key.
I should just make a group chat of the three of us, so that I
would
can
hate
just
that.
spew all of my thoughts at both of you at the same time. But one of you said that, like, this is like the ideal year for me to decide which path I want to take in my life, because USAU is allowing people to play on multiple teams until the actual postseason sectionals. Before, if you were to play on one team and then switch, you couldn't go back to the other team.
Yeah.
Now you can. So maybe I could do a little bit of both, because I haven't had frisbee in a year. Yeah, I haven't had frisbee in a year, so I'm not going to get tired of it. She said.
Yeah, you might not get tired mentally, but physically, perhaps.
I've been running, though. We had our whole episode about how we're sad little couch potatoes, and then immediately after that, I started running again. And I ran right before this call. I feel great.
Good work.
What's your thoughts on playing the mixed division versus playing the women's division?
Honestly, thinking about what frisbee team I'm going to play for, or club team I'm going to try out for, or whatever, has not been on the forefront of my mind. But I know we did some research when I got this job, 2 years ago now, that I, still haven't started. But we did some research on, like, what teams I could play for. And at the time, I think we definitely were talking more about, like, mixed, just because we were playing Peep Show. We were looking at the club teams that we saw. I know Unlimited Swipes is in the area, and they're definitely about Peep Show level. So that's a team that I could realistically try out for and make. Mm-hmm. And I definitely followed a couple, like, women's teams, I think, like Brooklyn Book Club. They look interesting, but I'm not sure about, my abilities to travel around in the city, because, like, even though you say everything's in New York City, like, it still takes a while to get anywhere on that tiny little island.
Yeah. Well, it's not so tiny.
Yeah, it's not. What I think is hilarious is that the Dutch bought Manhattan from the Native Americans for $24 worth of beads. I think about that every day.
Oh.
Without getting into the societal implications of that bullshit. Classic upstate New York, or just New York State public school curriculum. I'm just not sure about, like, I think wherever teams practice will determine where I try out.
From what I gathered, because for some reason I did a lot of research on New York
That's
City
what you're here.
clubs.
That's what we're friends for.
Scotty and I just do research for each other. None of us want to improve our own lives, but we want to improve the others' lives, and that's how it works. We're very codependent.
We are codependent.
But I think at least the three women's teams that seem to be in New York City, they all seem to practice at the same park, because space in New York City is limited, and there are no lined fields in Central Park.
Parks are not in abundance.
Yeah. So I think there's a bus that could take you there if you want to rent a bus. Or maybe
city buses aren't bad.
Okay. Then there you go.
I think everyone takes them.
Hop on that bus.
Yeah. Yeah. I will. I mean, I guess when you come down to move me in, we'll have to go check it out. We'll go check out the public transportation.
Oh, God. I say I hate public transportation because I'm very, like my mother before me, I'm an anxious woman. But when I went to London a few years ago, public transit was great. I fucking love the tube. I like there was some easy app on your phone and I just knew exactly where to take. And my friend that I was visiting there was like urging me, please take the buses, don't take the tube everywhere. But I was like, the tube has a fun little app that tells me how to get there. And also, you can't accidentally get on the wrong tube. Like the buses, there's multiple buses that get to one stop. And you got to like pay attention to what number. And I'm not good at reading that. But the tube, can't really mess up.
Yeah, the public transportation in big cities is great. So that's also why I'm not going to have a car to be able to go to peep show practice. But hey,
unless the taxi driver career works out, which I'm not putting down. Don't put that down.
Don't knock it till you try it.
Well,
maybe that's my weekend gig.
As we barely touched on women's versus mixed club teams, but listeners, we want to hear from you about this topic. Specifically, women matching players. We would love to hear your opinion because I've had a lot of men come up to me and tell me that I should play women's club. And I'm like, well, you can't play in the division, so why are you telling me your opinion? But yeah, like listeners, let us know. What do you like about mixed? What do you like about women's club? You can reach us at Laying It Out at ultiworld.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at laying period at it period at are we not periods?
That's Instagram. Period is Instagram is periods. Twitter is underscores.
I messed that up too. When we were talking to Tad, he knew. I'm not good at this.
He's on top of it.
He's been doing this for years. Yes, so at Twitter, at laying_it_out. But yeah, let us know, like, what is your opinion? What are you more comfortable with?
Keep in mind, we're both little ladies that don't really like to get run into by big men. That's my main anti-mixed argument, is sometimes I get hit a little harder than I really want to. And of course, the way that, inertia and forces work, I go flying, and then people give me free beer to apologize. That's not the worst part. That's not a bad part, no. But I would just prefer to not be run into by an adult man.
My favorite thing is just sending you all the TikToks that make fun of how short you are. My big anti-mixed, point is that my level of play, I like to be the one that runs deep.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job. And I also like to be the one that hucks it deep. And unless you're like really, really good as a woman matching player, which I'm not, you don't get to do that as often compared to the guy matching players.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those are our main arguments, but we'll definitely delve into that into a later episode. But listeners, let us know. Before we get into
love input.
Yeah. Before we get into our interview with Jazz and WABS, those are Lehigh team members that we mentioned earlier, to talk about kind of team structural changes and just general captaining advice. We do have a little ad break or special shout out to one of our friends. You've heard him mentioned before, but not heard his name. He is our 69th Instagram follower, TYRANNO DRAGOON. Scotti has mentioned him on the podcast before. He went to Ireland with her. I've lived literally every building that I've lived in college. He has also lived in that same building with me, I realized.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I saw him recently, and he was upset that we have mentioned of him on the podcast before, but not actually mentioned his name. So TYRANNO DRAGOON, also known as Ty, this is our little ad break, and shout out to you for being that 69th follower. Also, once he followed our Instagram, he liked every single post afterwards. So kudos to him.
Guaranteed way to get a shout out.
All right, well, this is our break for now, but we'll catch you in the interview.
All right, right, welcome back to the Laying It Out podcast. Today, Pockets and I are joined by our friends Jazz and WABS from Lehigh Ultimate as well. They were captains my senior year they're also seniors with me. And we're here to talk about some captaining advice, navigating some team dynamic shifts, and all sorts of fun Lehigh D3 reminiscing. So to start off, as we ask all our guests, Jazz and Wabs, whoever can take over, who wants to start, how did you find the sport, and like how did you fall in love with Ultimate?
I can start. So growing up, I just played soccer and cross country and various other sports. And then I went to boarding school the junior year of high school, and I went to a school where Frisbee was a big part of the culture, so I just decided to try it and fell in love with it that year and have played ever since. And coming into college, I knew I wanted to join, so I sought out the Frisbee team and joined right away, and I'm so glad I did because it really, really created all the good things of my college experience.
Hi, I'm Wabs. I joined Frisbee sort of on accident. I went into college thinking I wanted to play soccer, but right before I started college, I sliced my foot open and had to get a bunch of stitches, so I couldn't walk or run. And the soccer team said I couldn't join because I couldn't walk or run. So I was a little bit upset about that. And then my friend Abby brought me to a Frisbee little meet and greet soiree type activity, and I just really fell in love with the people and the vibe and the environment and the upperclassmen, and I went to a couple practices and I was just hooked from there.
Yeah, Frisbee seems to have a habit of, hey, we'll take whoever, even if you can't walk right now. So we talked, Scotty mentioned it in the intro. How did you both become captains? What made you want to captain? And did you have any concerns about leading a team when you first started?
Loaded question.
Yeah, big question right off the bat. I sort of grew into wanting to be captain because I cared a lot about the sport and the outcome of the team. I really like the actual sport and the social environment of it, so I just wanted to have more of a hand in what happened in the future.
I had a different experience. I have never done many leadership roles before Frisbee, but my sophomore year, one of the captains just mentioned to me that I should consider running for assistant. Wait, that's what the assistant captain. And it just kind of planted a seed, and I realized that I did have a lot that I thought I could contribute. Like, up until that point, I had just, like, tried to improve myself and took more of a backseat, but it just made me think that, yeah, I could play a supportive role from a leadership position rather than just as a player.
Yeah, I loved having you two as my little ass caps, as we call them. Maybe that's why you forgot the word assistant.
Yeah, is it assistant or is it ass?
It's definitely ass cap.
Just to speak to that, Pockets was our head captain when Wabs and I were assistant captains, and what a wonderful person to lead with and lead under.
We are limiting the amount of flattery.
Limiting the number of flattery. Pockets was also super organized, which was really helpful for us because we sort of started and had no idea what to do because Pockets had been so organized and on top of everything. And she was very good at teaching us the hard, boring, behind-the-scenes stuff that no one ever wants to do, but for some reason she's really good at it.
I love the boring behind-the-scenes stuff, like going on the USCU website and like making sure everything's organized. We had one, because I'm like obsessive over this stuff, we had one tournament where I had some like feeling inside me, some intuition. I was like, I have a feeling we didn't send in our bid fee the night before, and we hadn't. And so I just like put in my credit card information. I was like, okay, here's $400. And then I got like the next week, I got like $400 in 20s from the club sports center because they're like, we can't refund you because I didn't have a campus bank account, so I just had like a little fat stack of 20s. Yeah, it was a little sidetrack. I was the boring captain, but the organized captain.
It's important.
So for our listeners, for our little aside, we currently have 2 generations of Lehigh women's leadership head captains on this podcast. Pockets was the head captain in 2019, and then Jazz and Wabs took over and were co-head captains in 2020, which was unfortunately the year that we were cut short. So with that transition from 1 to 2 head captains, what would you say, or can you speak to the dynamic of leadership from the team going into the fall when you guys took over as head captains, and any support systems and how they changed throughout the year?
Yeah, so we had some reservation becoming co-head captains because when we were some of the older leadership that we had seen when there were co-head captains, the dynamic wasn't as healthy as like we would have wanted our captainship dynamic to be. But we worked really well together as assistant captains, and we're also friends. So we figured that we would be able to get along, and I think it was the right decision because we're very different and complement each other. Our leadership styles complement each other. So in that sense, it was a good dynamic. And then I also want to talk about having a sophomore assistant captain, which was very interesting and unusual, but I think was the right decision to have a much younger perspective in leadership, especially because we had so many younger girls on the team that year.
Not to gas up Pockets even more already in this podcast, but I think you mentioned going from 1 to 2 head captains, and I think Pockets had a really tough job of that was around the time when our team was struggling a bit socially from some issues going on in the team, and Pockets really took that year to make us be a positive team. We were a really strong team with our skill and our physicality, but we were lacking socially, and that was causing problems on the field. And so Pockets did a great job of making us positive, which made it really easy for Jazz and I to step in as dual head captains and take it from that one point. And now we had the social positivity. We could really grind hard physically. And then Kiwi, another key factor, was our sophomore ASCAP, and she gave us a lot of really good input from the younger kids that we wouldn't have known as much of because we were just more distant from them as seniors. So we had a lot of good input from her, as well as we had Lubes, our coach, who gave us a lot of good outside input. So all in all, we had a really good support system from the beginning to the end. Daz and I were really lucky in that way.
The big reason that we wanted to have the two of you on is you had the big decision, or had to deal with the big decision of deciding to split Lehigh Gravity into A and B teams for the first time in the program's history. I kind of want to get into that. So when did it first occur to you that the team would have to split, and what were your first thoughts on that?
I think it kind of started actually when you were captain. At the end of your senior year, our junior year, we knew we had a really big, strong team, and we had a lot of players. And we sort of talked about really trying to recruit hard, and if we got enough players, maybe consider splitting to make one team competitive and one team less competitive.
Yeah, I think I remember we talked about like 30 was kind of the magic number. Like if we had 30 committed girls who were coming to every practice, then it would definitely be worth it to split into 2 teams for everyone's competitive benefit and also learning benefit, playing time benefit.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough decision that I am glad I did not have to make, being on the players' side of the whole thing. What concerns did you guys think about when splitting? And were they more like social concerns? Because as we've touched on, Lehigh's team, and as I'm sure most college ultimate teams are very like we socialize together as well. And like if you thought that might either like impact or improve like the overall dynamic off the field as well.
We definitely had social concerns and then playing concerns as well. We wanted to make sure we could build 2 functional teams, not just like a single functional team and then the rest of the people. So we thought a lot about like the playing on the field as well as the social. So we focused a lot on maintaining a single identity. We still had a lot of social events together as a full team. And we just like emphasized that everyone has a role in the big team. And like we weren't trying to divide friend groups or anything. And we also tried to get a lot of input from everyone on the team. Like it wasn't just a decision that we made in a vacuum. We had like town hall meeting type things where we let everyone go around and talk and voice their concerns. So we were making sure we were hearing and considering everyone's perspectives.
Yeah, I remember I was weirdly there for the fall of 2019, even though I had graduated already. But I remember those town hall discussions, and they were really good. People were very respectful to each other. And I know we've brought up these like social issues before on this earlier in this recording, but I know a lot of younger players, like the brand new sophomores, they were really concerned about like splitting, like they wouldn't be as close with their friend group anymore. And then a lot of your grade, actually, the seniors, they had spoken up. They're like, hey, we've been there, done that. We've gone through the social dilemmas. And then after that, kind of like 2018, 2019 season, they thought that the seniors thought that like we could get through this together and it would be a big improvement for the team.
About the big sophomore class, that like we mentioned this before, but it was so helpful to have a sophomore in leadership because she was privy to all of the potential issues and like friend dynamics. And so she did voice concerns. And like, so we were able to have access to the younger perspective.
Especially because the sophomore class was our biggest class and the class we were going to split most aggressively. So that friend group felt as though they were being ripped in half at kind of an early stage in their friend groupness. So that was really important for us to have. And to a lot of the concerns she would tell us we hadn't even thought about, even though we were trying to.
Good. I'm glad you guys took like so much advice from everyone and listened in. So kind of speaking on taking in advice from your teammates, now that you've gone through the process, do you have any advice for future captains or players that might have to make either this decision in the future or after the return of COVID, maybe there'll be teams that are forming together after being an A and a B team for so long? So just general advice for teams going through structural changes.
Well, the sad part was that we didn't even really get to see the fruits of our labor. We saw the beginnings. Like, we could tell that both our A and our B team, everyone was thriving. People were getting a lot of touches. Everyone, I like really have to hand it to our team, was really on board. There were very few social issues or people who were really upset with the split from what we could tell. Everyone really saw why and how we were doing it. And I think it really made our team stronger. But then the pandemic hit right when our team was getting juicy and good. So we didn't get to fully see what it could have been. But in regard to putting back the team together, I think really the social aspect is more important than the physical abilities of your team, because that chemistry on the field is what makes or breaks a team. And also, if you have a positive team, you can push them more with conditioning and with drills and stuff because everyone's having a good time.
Yeah, in terms of transitioning, some things that we did was when we first started having split practices, we would still have A and B warm up together, and then we would split for drills. And then depending on, like, if it was a day when there weren't enough girls for 2 scrimmages, then we would combine for scrimmages. So we kind of did like a gradual split so it wasn't so abrupt. And then we also tried to, we still hung out together outside of practice. And then we also combined for spring break because it wasn't a sanctioned or it was a for fun tournament. And I think that really helped our team because like spring break is a very important social tournament. And so we were able to come back together and remember how fun it is to play with everyone and see how much everyone had improved while practicing apart.
I was going to say, I think the thing that stood out the most to me was spring break, because then I was playing with the B team freshmen who I hadn't really seen play that much since we were teaching them how to throw backhands. And then like they were calling lines and they were like making plays and like looking for the dump. And I was like, this isn't a freshman. This is like, they know what they're doing. And it was so awesome because I think that any one of them like would have been able to fit in with the A team chemistry if we were to like even recombine. So I think that I personally think you guys navigated it in like a fantastic way. And I commend you a lot for that.
Scotty, I want to ask you though, as a player going through the process of like pseudo tryouts, they weren't really tryouts, but like being a player while the team was splitting, I feel like you offer a very interesting viewpoint. What was that like for you? What do you think could have been done differently?
To be honest, I wasn't too stressed out about either way it would have gone. I mean, I had definitely some social concerns, and it was like interesting to see how it was going to shake out when you made the decisions, but I never really felt like I was trying out because you knew everyone so individually that I knew wherever I would end up would be like where I would contribute be the most contributing player, like be able to be my best self. So like if I had been on B team, I totally would have been interested in like an elected leadership position, because like one thing that I did want to touch on as we talk about leadership is like the opportunities to be a leader, even if you're not in an elected position. And I think that there were like fantastic opportunities for girls that made B team that were then leaders on the team, and they wouldn't have been if they were on A team. So I personally was not trying to stress out about it. I say that after a year of being outside of it, so I can be a little bit more diplomatic than when I'm in it. And we were talking about it like almost constantly, and like who's gonna make it and who's good enough, and you know, all those sorts of like catty things that happen behind closed doors. But I think that you guys handled it well, and you handled any additional like social fallout that could have happened. Like you were very proactive and handled it before it even occurred. So that's kind of how I felt with it. And any advice that I would offer to any listeners is like definitely be proactive, having those conversations with teammates that might like gossip or, you know, talk shit, which I know I'm guilty of myself, is like very productive, because then like you nip it in the bud, and then everyone can like go on and be like an equal teammate. Like, well, you're a teammate rather than like playing for your own like personal benefit.
I have a question actually for all three of you. You touched on you didn't get to see the fruits of your labor. The big talk of 2019 D3 Nationals was our good old friend Oberlin. Do you think if the A team got to play out their 2020 season, do you think you could give Oberlin a run for their money? Give me a play-by-play of D3 Nationals, because I had a feeling you were going to make it.
I think we were going to make it for sure. We were tight. We were so tight. Everyone was so on the train. Like, everyone was on board. Everyone was wanting to be better. Everyone was pushing conditioning skills. We were dirty. We were just in the beginning, too. And we had a dirty B team. Everyone was just dirty. And then, yeah, I think we would have made it.
I think we would have won. I think we would have won. We had 15 handlers. All of our A team could handle. And like the importance of that was like, even though there were girls that were like less confident handling, like our stack did not stay the same. So whoever started out handling might have been the person going deep at the end to catch a point. so like Jazz, like our WAB said, we were like absolutely filthy. It's like funny thinking about that one tournament where we played MIT, and I have never seen a group of girls be so mad at like how efficient our offense was. Like, and how well we knew the rules. So that was like, I think that really, that one tournament, that was our only tournament actually that we played as an A team, was like so insane to like be a part of, because like everyone could handle, everyone could throw, everyone was confident, and like we continued to build each other up even as the weekend went on, and like improved our chemistry. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, I agree. We just had so much depth. Like when like being able to split, you can like really like form, like you can like, what's the word? I guess the chemistry of the team was so tight. Like, yes, we were pushing ourselves physically, we were improving our skills, but we like the group of people had such good chemistry that nothing could have stopped us.
And I think part of the reason we had such good chemistry is because after the split, we were playing, before we split, we were having practice with 30 to 40 people. So you're getting a lot of touches with a lot of different, you're not getting as many touches with a lot of different people. But after we split, especially when we would scrimmage, you're scrimmaging high level players every single time. There's only 15 people there were only 15 people-ish on our A team, and I imagine this was the same for B team. And a lot of times also with school, people wouldn't be there. So you were playing almost savage against really high level players, and you were learning their playing style because you were defending against them. So we were getting really good, hard work during our scrimmages, and we were learning about each other. It was just the perfect community to destroy everyone else in nationals.
I miss it so much. Now I'm like getting amped about it again, because I just remember like when I joined as a sophomore, I always felt like there was always a first look and there wasn't so much a second. Like people really kind of tended to throw to the same people, like the same people always touch the disc. And even though we were on we had a smaller team, so that like decreases the number of people that you have options to throw to, every single person was an option, and there wasn't a single person that I would ever think to look off just because of like who they were. And that seems to be like, the former seems to be a bit of a trend maybe in some college ultimate, but then the second like you have confidence in every single person to catch the disc, it like gets so much more fun too.
Well, yeah, if you look at our 2018 nationals run, I would say that the disc was basically just passed between like a smaller group of people, and that was probably smaller than the size of the A team in 2020. And then from what I've heard, I didn't actually get to really watch you play, like you were using everyone on your A team roster. Everyone was contributing like so much. And then I would imagine also like the B team, now it was their time to shine too. They were getting all the touches, they were getting the opportunity as being a handler. So it was just like getting all that playing time, and you were using everyone on the field. I wish you could have. I wish you could have. I was prepared. Because I'm the weird alumni that doesn't go away. I was prepared to like buy my own camera equipment and stuff. We had Charlie, who's the editor-in-chief of Ultiworld. He was telling of his story of how he started, where he would get like these 10-foot ladders and just stand on them and record Frisbee games at the beginning. I was kind of going to do like a GoPro on a stick kind of deal. But I wanted to like go see your games and watch you play. I wanted to like help drive the van to nationals. And although you might have flown that year because it was in Texas. No, it wasn't in Texas. Where was it?
It was in Texas. No, it wasn't.
2019 was Texas. Where was 2020 going to be?
Chicago?
That was 2018.
I don't even know if they announced it.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow, seeing all of your babies' pockets, the fruits of your labor. Wow, I see why you would want to like be there for that, filming it like the happy little mom in the background.
I got enough satisfaction just that you actually got to do it, because I'm a firm believer in B teams. I care a lot about B teams so much.
Yeah, one thing that Scotty mentioned when you were talking about your experience as a player going through the split is that you thought that no matter where you ended up, it would be where you could contribute the most. And that was so important in how we decided where to place people. And it ended up so that everyone could contribute so much more and get so much more out of it. So yeah, it was cool to see the growth in the A as well as in the B.
Yeah, we did not make decisions at all based on this person we think is the best. Also because there really is no best. There's just where people thrive. You can have someone who's a phenomenal player on one team and put them on another team and they can't catch disc, they can't complete a throw. And there were people who, if we put them on A team, they could have obviously been at that skill level, but they were such an important part of B team that they really helped them in that placement.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's like a really good point because it's crazy how like you can be a very confident, like essential player on an all women's team. And then the second we go scrimmage, like do mixed with the guys, like I know this happens to me a lot. I don't really ever touch the disc unless I make them make me handler and I pick up the disc. So it's like, it's very interesting how team dynamics change, like not just between A and B, but then when you go from women's to mixed as well.
Sometimes, like, I was definitely as a captain, I was one of the people that made this decision, but sometimes we had to go play with, like, the guys because we were low on numbers. That was never a fun day. It was like, oh, their wingspan is, like, twice mine. Oh, just deed all of a sudden. Or there was, like, one time where I was guarding, like, Quattro, and he's so much denser than I am. And we collided, and then he didn't move at all, and I hit the floor.
They do have the density on us at some time.
Oh, no.
But we had the precision. I feel like even when we were playing against the guys, they had us in aggression and sometimes speed, but we always got them in precision and thoughtfulness, in my opinion. And also sometimes speed and density, honestly.
Some of those boys do be skinny.
Bean poles.
Bean poles.
Oh, God.
This is a very pro women's ultimate episode. I miss it.
I miss it too. So looking back, after this conversation, I was going to ask if you had anything that you would have changed, but it feels like you're fairly happy with your decision, at least overall. Would you say, or is there any regrets that you have? Anything that looking back you wanted to do differently?
Not be thrust into a global pandemic.
Agreed.
Something in your control, but yeah. That's the big one.
It's hard to tell because we couldn't see how it played out. Like, we don't know what would have happened because we were so early on. So we don't really, at that point, we hadn't hit any real hurdles yet. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that if you have the solid numbers and depth to split, it's a really good idea. Like, challenges come with it, but you have so many benefits as well. And so you just have to try to be proactive about those challenges. Specifically, social is a big one. But don't shy away from it just because it's a lot of work and a big change because of the benefits that will come from it.
I would even add, like, you could go halfway. Something that we started doing towards the end is in the fall, we would do A and B, or not A and B, X and Y tournaments. Just like splitting the team up randomly. Because even if you're not like dividing people into like less developed, more developed teams or whatever, you're still splitting them up so that they get that more practice time. Especially like freshmen when they're first starting out, all they want to do is just kind of run around and catch the disc. So if they get that playing time, they're going to love the sport a whole lot more.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I really think splitting is possibly more beneficial for the B team than the A team because when you don't split, when you have that big team, the players who have less experience aren't getting the touches. My grade was really fortunate. When we joined, there were like, 12 people on the team? We like doubled the team. Less than that? 10?
We had, because, okay, think about it. Domino, we had, I think, 5 in the junior class, right? Except 2 went abroad in the spring, 1 went abroad in the fall, and then Jazzy and myself. So we had a line. Yeah, so we had 8. 1 went abroad in the fall. So we had a line of upperclassmen. And then 2 went abroad. Oh, I just flipped you off. 2 went abroad. 2 went abroad in the spring. So we had 6 upperclassmen going into our spring 2017. The rest were your freshman class.
We like more than doubled your team, and therefore my class got so many touches and such a high retention rate. Oh, another thing about that is I really liked I think the reason we had such a high retention rate our year is because we started practice separate from the guys. In previous years, they had done a big joint first couple of practice with the guys and the girls, and I think that is really intimidating to a lot of girls because there's like double to triple the amount of boys, and a lot of them have played sports before. So we did the first couple separate. There were also there were so little people, we got so many touches, and that goes back to the B team thing. Like all of the B team players get so many more touches when they're separate, and you don't have to spend time with A team reteaching things to A team that they already know. So both teams can just exponentially grow rather than one team just sort of getting better more linearly.
If you keep the full team together sometimes, then the B team can still benefit from playing with the higher level A team players. Like it doesn't have to be complete isolation. So you can still have the crossover older players teaching the younger players.
I was gonna say on a similar note, I do think the beauty of Pockets captaining here was we had 5 like very top tier Frisbee players graduate, and they were like the people that really carried us at 2018 Nationals. I'll like, if you don't mind me saying it, and then when they graduated, like we really had a lot of people that were still learning, and we had a huge freshman class, and Pockets like so selflessly donated her entire senior year.
Don't say that.
Yes, you did to teaching those freshmen how to like learn how to play. And you've asked me this before, and like some of the more egotistical players, and I'm gonna say it myself included because I have a podcast. I talk. I think people want to listen to me talk, so I'm definitely a little egotistical. Like felt like maybe we were like playing below our level, but at the end of the day, like I had so much I needed to learn too, so it only benefited me as well.
Yeah, I think our big thing was we were missing handlers after those 5 players left, and I remember our coach Lube sat down with the 3 of us, Jazz and WABS, and he was like, "You guys are gonna have to handle," and we were just like, we're cutters naturally. I didn't even try, and then Jazz, you came up to me one time. You're like, "I've been handling now in the fall," and then you went back to like cutting in the spring or something. You're like, "I've been used to just standing around throwing the disc. I'm not used to running again," or something like that.
I have a question for you as the sole captain. Like, did you have specific goals knowing we were losing those top players, that we would have to make this switch? Like, what were your goals for our year? And were you scared to be a single captain?
I wasn't scared to be a captain because, one, I trusted the both of you. I felt like our kind of direction was kind of in the same spot. I think we're more on the, like, I want people to enjoy having Frisbee mindset than I want to win. And then also I had Lubes who I had worked with the entire season prior. And then we played club together and stuff. He and I were buddy. So I wasn't too nervous. I think the thing I was most nervous about is like, oh, now I'm the one that has to talk in front of everyone at practice. But no, thinking back to like my main goal, we touched on it so much already, but like just that social aspect. I wanted everyone to just like Frisbee as much as I liked Frisbee. Because I was at like, I think I was thinking back about how many times I've missed practice. Freshman year, I only missed if my mom was yelling at me about my grades. Sophomore year, I literally only missed once, and it's because I was puking, and not from alcohol. I was in pain. I was in period pain. Like, oh God, this is a whole other like story, but I like woke up on my period. I was like to my roommate, I was like, oh, it feels so good. And then I just vomited into the trash can. I was just in literally so much pain. I couldn't deal with it. Junior year, I think I missed it for one practice for a date, which is lame. And then senior year, I missed one for the career fair.
Those are pretty good reasons to miss.
Yeah. My main goal was to just have people like Frisbee, kind of also like Scotty was like, oh, Pockets selfishly gave up her senior
Selflessly.
year. Selfless. I was the only, like, my grade had an interesting number of people. We kind of had, like, 5 girls, but then I was also kind of the only one. Because the girl, we had 5 to start. The girl that was there freshman year, she eventually, like, left the team, didn't really want to compete anymore. And then we gained 2 people our sophomore year because they graduated in the same class as me. But then they both, like, stayed an extra year. So I was the only one leaving. And then, like I said, I didn't even really leave. I was still there in the fall. So, like, the only one who was, like, losing, like, a year in my mind was myself. And it's like, I already went to nationals twice. I'm old and tired. My ankle hurts. And the team that I had fallen in love with was suddenly, like, not in love with itself. People weren't always super happy with each other. The dynamic was kind of weird. So I was like, this is kind of my main goal here, is I want people to like Frisbee again. That was a long way to answer that question.
Mission accomplished, though.
Yeah, you did a good job.
And I think you mentioned, like, seeing the fruits of my labor before. There was one of our town halls that you guys were doing to determine, like, what to do about the split. Someone literally was like, oh, and Pockets, like, really helped the team socially. And I was like, that's all I needed. I can die happy now. I'm fine.
Aww.
So we're good. I like that.
Honestly, Jazz and I were talking about this on our little bit of a road trip about COVID and how the team sort of got cut short. And although it's really sad and we could have really crushed it at nationals, it was in a way nice that we ended on such a happy, strong note, because, you know, now we can say that we would have crushed it and we don't even need the confirmation, because if we didn't crush it, we'll never know. So we can just lie to ourselves for the rest of eternity, and it's not that bad.
You say that. I am interested, and I'm positioning this to the 3 of you. Maybe we try and get the gang back together again, get the region back together again, and try and, like, redo 2020 Ohio Valley Regionals.
Pockets, I haven't touched a disc since then. Okay, I've thrown, but I haven't played Frisbee since then.
Give us some time. Maybe we have, like, a 5-year reunion. 2025. How old will we be?
Okay, I'm down.
28? Yeah, okay. So Oberlin, Haverford, Swarthmore, all ya town, what am I saying? All you universities. The one that made us pray at regionals.
You gotta get your connects, your Ultiworld connects, get them to set this up. Send out the notification. 5 years from now, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, we're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it in Bethlehem, because fuck you, Ohio. The state of Ohio. I don't know if Ultiworld has tournament hosting capabilities, but they could definitely film it and report on it. But
Perfect.
Yeah, no, 5 years down the line, calling out to the Ohio Valley region, come play with us. We'll see who would have really won, and forget all the other regions. This is Ohio Valley only.
But for the immediate future, do you guys have any plans to start looking at club teams? Or is that one of those, like, questions where you're like, wow, I don't know what my life's gonna be like. Why did you ask that? Because one of the biggest issues I'm having about transitioning out of college is figuring out how Ultimate's gonna be a part of my life going forward.
I currently live in rural Idaho, and I don't think that anyone plays Frisbee within a 2-hour radius of me. Right now, I haven't really thought about that because it's not an option, but I don't know what my life's going to look like moving forward. So I would definitely, I don't know if I would want to play club, but I would do summer league. I don't know if I have the drive to be as competitive right now at this point in my life. But I really do miss the sport and the culture, so I want to get back to it in some respect.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Jazz on that one. I'm in New York, and there aren't really any sports going on very much right there. And I'm also in veterinary school, so I don't really have very much free time at all. But at some point in the future, probably past my physical prime, so I unfortunately won't have the chance to do club, but I would do like teams around the area just to meet like dope people, because Frisbee people are always awesome, and that's a really good way to make friends.
There's some old club players. You'd be surprised. So I wouldn't put your athletic prime too early. Well, thank you both for hopping on this interview with us. It was lovely to check in with you again.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It really was nice to chat.
Thanks so much again, Jazz and Wabs, for joining us on this episode of the podcast and talking about all sorts of captaining and team structural changes. It's a ton of fun to catch up with you guys. And as for our listeners, be sure to join us in the PS Zone, where we talk about some Wildwood team names, the wacky events that led to them, especially because Wildwood is a definite possibility this year.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, looking at how vaccine rates are going, how COVID rates are going down. I have been sadly refreshing the Wildwood page like twice a day to see how many teams are like signing up and who's signing up. Actually, I have it open. This is coming to you live. 54 teams currently signed up. Definitely a tournament, but a lot sadder than usual. There's usually like 400 teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get all into that, into the PS Zone. Like Scotty said, we're going to talk about Wildwood team names, specifically my team name from 2019 and the crazy story of how it came to be. Because if there's a few things you'll know about Wildwood, there's always going to be some weird team names that don't make sense to you at all. So subscribe and listen to this great retelling of a definitely questionable event that happened.
And as for now, for the main podcast, it's been great hanging out with you, and we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks. Once again, I'm Scotty Dempsey.
Chelsea Pockets.
And we'll catch you on the flip.
Do you remember when us three as a captaining duo thought it would be a good idea to bring an old mattress to the field and have the girls like lay out onto it, and then one of the players leaped over the mattress and like popped her shoulder out of her socket?
It was a good idea.
Good idea.
Even in retrospect.
She dislocated her shoulder, and then she relocated it on the drive back to the hospital. It bounced back into place. So I think it was a win-win all around.